Hey fans, welcome back to the first annual JanuScary special, and today we're talking about Scream 2022. Now, Scream 2022, it is a meta-slasher film directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, and is the fifth installment in the Scream film series. This is the first film in the series not to be directed by Wes Craven, as he passed away in 2015, unfortunately. But the film is dedicated to him at the beginning of the end credits. The film stars newcomers Melissa Barrera, Mason Gooding, Jenna Ortega, Dylan Minnette, Mikey Madison, Jasmin Savoy Brown, Sonia Ben Ammar, and Jack Quaid, alongside returning stars Courteney Cox, David Arquette, and Neve Campbell. The story follows Sam Carpenter, a troubled young woman who returns to Woodsboro when her sister is brutally attacked by a new killer wearing the Ghostface persona. Once there, the killer begins to target Sam and her sister's friends, leaving Sam to contact the previous Ghostface survivors, former Sheriff Dewey Riley, his ex-wife Gale Weathers, and of course Sydney Prescott. And Sam must come to grips with her secret connection to the town's murderous past before it's too late. That's the gist of what is going on in the film. This is actually my second recording of this video. I'm out here, of course, in our little guest home, and we recently had a snowstorm, so it is freezing. So my first video, you can see my breath. I was so cold, I was rushing through everything. My thoughts were all over the place, so I decided to scrap that video and to re-record, and hopefully it is better. I did a lot of complaining in that previous video, and all of those complaints are still valid and hopefully are spoken more concisely. Overall, the new Scream film is disappointing, but there are some good things, and I will start with that before I get to the bad and, of course, get into spoilers. Starting with this new cast. You got Melissa Barrera. She is the lead. She's great as Sam. She's Tara's sister, who we meet in the beginning of the film. Of course, Tara is played by Jenna Ortega. She is, I think she started out as a Disney star. She's cute in a role. You just want her to make it, especially after that opening scene. It is brutal with her. Mikey Madison, she plays Amber's best friend. She goes, like, she's kind of like the main person who you might think is involved in the killings because of how the film starts. Jack Quaid is Sarah's boyfriend. He's like the viewer for us. He describes the events that are going on like how we would in theater, like, we shouldn't do this. That's stupid. We should get out of here. It was fun to watch him. Thoroughly enjoyed him in The Boys and enjoyed him in this film. Mason Gooding, he's very likable. He's your typical jock. He's actually Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son. I don't know if anybody knew that. He's shown up in Booksmart and a couple other films before. He's doing very well for himself. And in this film, he's just very funny. But yeah, his character is Chad Meeks Martin, and his twin sister, played by Jasmin Savoy Brown, is Mindy Meeks Martin. Now, they are the nephew and niece of Randy Martin, played by Jamie Kennedy in Scream 1 and Scream 2. Of course, he passed away or was murdered, however you want to say it, in Scream 2. But Jasmin, she pretty much plays Randy's role. She has all of the horror film knowledge of all the tropes and how to survive. She is your designated LGBTQ character, as the modern films do. But she's very funny and she's very likable in the film as well. Dylan Minnette, he plays Wes Hicks. He's the sheriff's son. He's also in the friend group. Sonia Ben Ammar, she's Liv McKenzie. She is Chad's girlfriend, and she's the red herring for the rest of the film. You pretty much think that she is the killer. And also Kyle Gaymer shows up just to get killed in like a small cameo. It was weird to see him. I thought he was going to play a bigger part, but he's like early on in the film. Other things I like, it makes fun of how new horror films take themselves too seriously, and how like everybody isn't Jordan Peele. They can't make another Get Out and a great film, but they keep trying to, and that sometimes people just want a slasher. They want a fun popcorn horror film they can go and watch. So they make fun meta jokes like that. You have the homages. You got Wes Hicks. Of course, Wes is an homage to Wes Craven, the creator of the franchise. You got Tara and Sam Carpenter. Their last name is an homage to John Carpenter, the creator of the Halloween franchise. The gore is great. The kills are pretty gruesome, but it's not over the top as horror films have come to be known. Like, you don't see guts spilling out or anything like that, but you do get bones breaking, you get a lot of stabs and a lot of blood everywhere, so that aspect is really nice as well. Like I said before, the meta humor is great. They go over all the rules that you're supposed to follow in a horror film. You're never supposed to split up, don't go into a dark room alone, never trust somebody you just met, etc., etc. And watching them go over that doubly is just pretty interesting as a nice layer of comedy to the film. They also talk about how franchises get worse over time, picking fun at themselves a little bit, and how everybody pretty much likes the original film and how they grew up with the original film, watching them with their parents, and how studios are trying to cash in on that by making these legacy sequels. You know, they'll bring back some of the old cast, sprinkle in a lot of new characters, and they will name it the same name as the previous film. And you've seen this in Hollywood a lot. You got The Thing, you got Halloween, most recently they did it with Candyman, and of course this film is, even though it's the 5th Scream film, it's just called Scream. So I like that they made that joke. That's basically it for the things that I enjoyed about this film. Other than that, there are a lot of bad things that kind of knock the film down a few notches in terms of enjoyability. Like I said before, they go over the rules that they're supposed to follow, but the issue is that everybody in this film acts so stupid even though they know the rules of the things they're not supposed to do. And it takes away from the believability of the film. You got characters who are like, we shouldn't split up, yet they split up anyway. Characters who go into like a dark basement alone, and for another character to say, why would you do that? You could have easily been killed. Hey, I'm gonna go find this person. You should take a weapon. Why would you go out there alone? Matter of fact, why would you even leave the party? All these stupid things, and I'll get back to that party later, but all these stupid things that the characters do that they shouldn't do. The teenagers in the film, they act pretty nonchalant about murder, like it's just something that happens all the time, like, oh, my friend was just killed. Yeah, that's sad. You're gonna get killed next. You're gonna get killed next. No, it's probably you. Like, acting so nonchalant about it is a little unbelievable. Like, if your best friend is killed, you're probably going to be really sad about it and not start making a lot of jokes. And I know everybody grieves in a different way, but the way it's done in this film just doesn't fit. Another thing about the town, when all these murders are taking place, like, the neighborhoods are empty, the hospitals are empty, there's barely any cops. None of this makes sense. It takes away from the believability, like I said before. And I'll get more into this when I go into spoilers, but overall, with this lack of a presence of a town and these murders going on, it just takes away from the enjoyability of the film. It takes me out of it. Overall, in terms of the score, I'm going to give this film a solid 5.5 out of 10. If you enjoy the franchise, even if you just enjoy horror movies in general, I recommend you check it out. It's a nice, fun time in the theater, but if you want something deeper, that's not what you're getting here. If you haven't seen the film, stop now. I'm about to go into spoilers. And if you have, these are more of my complaints in terms of spoiling the film. So, Richie, Sam's boyfriend, and Amber, her sister's friend, they're the killers of the film. And it's pretty much, they try their best to hide it, but they don't do a good job. One, in the beginning of the film, of course, the call to Tara's phone comes from Amber's phone. They're like texting, and all of a sudden it switches, no, I'm a killer. Like, okay, really? You're a killer? The way that whole thing's set up, you're like, okay, it's definitely Amber, and if she's not a killer, she's somehow involved. Now, Richie, on the other hand, he is played off as like, no, I'm not the killer, we shouldn't be doing this, I don't even want to be in town. But the moment you are absolutely sure that he's one of the killers is when the Ghostface attacks Tara in the hospital, and all the Ghostface does is cut his arm and push him to the side. At that moment, you're like, okay, yeah, you're a killer. Why wouldn't Ghostface just stab you to death right then and there? It made no sense. And if you weren't even sure then, later on when they go to the house party, that house party, he says, hey, is there any more beer? This fridge is out. And she's like, yeah, down in the basement. And they have a joke about how he shouldn't go to the basement alone. But he just said he didn't want to go to that party. And now he's willing to go down to the basement for a beer. It's silly. And you're like, yeah, you're definitely a killer. You're going to come back and kill somebody. And of course, later on, he proves himself to be the killer. The sheriff, Sheriff Hicks and her son Wes Hicks, they're killed in broad daylight. Now, Ghostface, or one of the Ghostfaces, calls the sheriff and tells her she's going to kill his son. So she turns around, rushes back home to save him. She starts tracing the call tells other cops to converge on her house. In this whole time, she does not trace the call. The sheriffs and the other cops never arrive at her house. She makes it home to get killed brutally in broad daylight outside the front of her house, and no cops show up until after she's dead. No neighbors see it. None of this stuff, it just doesn't make sense in a modern setting, for one, that you can get away with this and nobody will catch it on film, or two, that this is a police officer telling other police officers that the killer is about to attack her son, and they don't get there until later. Just, it doesn't make any sense. Another aspect about the film that was okay, but I think they went a little too far with, is the fact that Sam Carpenter, she is actually Billy Loomis's illegitimate daughter. Her mom in high school had a one-night stand with Billy Loomis and got pregnant, and upon graduation, she tricked another boy into thinking it was his kid so that he proposed right after and they got married. And later, when Sam found out, she brought it up to her mom, and her dad overheard and left the family. And so she sees visions of a dead Billy Loomis, and she has to take medication to block it out, and he's played by Skeet Ulrich again, but I thought the visions part was unnecessary. Just knowing that she's Loomis's illegitimate daughter was good enough. We didn't need to see Skeet Ulrich come back to talk to her via these visions. Dewey, he's basically your Han Solo. They brought him back just to kill him. You can tell he's done with this franchise. And the thing is, when they're in the hospital and they're attacked, he shoots the Ghostface killer like 5 times in the chest. And as they're leaving, he said, no, you got to shoot him in the head. They always come back. Why didn't you shoot the killer in the head the first time? You've lived through 4 of these movies and you don't know to shoot the killer in the head? Secondly, after you shot the killer 5 times the first time and they passed out, because even though you're having a bulletproof vest, getting shot still hurts, you didn't think to unmask him to at least find out who it is, and that'd be the end of that version of the killer, and you just got to go chase the second one. Like, these smart decisions that a person like him, who's lived through 4 films, should have known. And you got Sydney and Gale. One, Sydney and Gale come back. That's stupid. At no point should they have returned to the town under any circumstances, because these killings all started with them. So obviously, whoever the killer is wants to kill them. Why would they do that? But they're smarter than they look, you would think. They get back to the house toward the end of the film. They both get guns. They're going to save the new girl and her, whoever's left of her friends. So the killer, one of the killers, Amber, comes out, and she's like, I've been stabbed, I've been stabbed. And they both have guns at this point. They're like, you think it's a trap? Definitely a trap. And she's like, screw it. She starts shooting at him, shoots Gale in the stomach. When she came out, they knew it was a trap. They should have shot her in the legs or something if they didn't want to kill her. But no, they just stand there enough to get shot at and for Gale to get critically injured. Stupid things. Back to this party. Kids are getting murdered left and right in this town. And these kids decide to throw a party. Clearly, okay, one of the killers is one of the people who threw the party, of course, to get more kids there. That part makes sense. What doesn't make sense is, why was the party allowed to happen? Why were this many teenagers even allowed to go to the party? Where are the parents in this town? Like, do the parents not care that kids are getting killed? It's like, if I'm a parent and kids are getting killed in town and my daughter comes to me and she's like, hey, yeah, there's a party, can I go? I'm like, hell no, you can't go. You stay in this house until they catch this killer. I mean, like, how crazy is that? Okay, but one thing I should do like about this film, okay, Chad and Mindy Meeks Martin, the only 2 black characters in the film, they survive. And I'm excited anytime a black character survives a horror movie. And one of the things I think that saved Chad is that Chad and Liv were about to have sex at one point in the film, because there's this running plot line about how Chad really wants to have sex with Liv, even though Liv is not ready, but she's had sex with other guys before. So there's that aspect. So they're making out at this party, and Liv's like, okay, I'm ready to have sex. And Chad's like, I don't want to have sex because I'm not sure that you're not the killer. And she gets mad and she leaves. And as you know, the horror trope is, if you have sex, you're gonna die. So him not having sex, I think, saved his life. And it's great at the end when they both give each other the thumbs up. I totally love it. And it's almost kind of funny they didn't mention that trope in the horror movie, like, oh, we're both gonna die, we're black. Like, I think that would have been funny. And back to Liv. Her character, I do believe, on the cutting room floor somewhere, she was supposed to be like a third killer, because she is a super obvious red herring for no reason. She doesn't show up to things. She is suspicious all the time, showing up with blood on her hands, stuff like that, not explaining herself. And I think in the original plot, she was the third killer, and Amber shot her to cover their tracks because they didn't like her. Some reason like that. But I do think that was the original plan. About Amber, the way she is murdered in this film is hilarious, and it is almost identical to the same way her character Sadie from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was killed. And Mikey Madison has to have this in her contract or something, whatever. Like, if I'm going out, I got to be lit on fire, shot, and run at somebody screaming, ah! But it was hilarious. Everybody in my screening was laughing out loud when it happened, and it's crazy that that has happened twice to a character she's played, right? It's a little strange. But overall, with the meta humor on top of the meta humor, I feel like the directors of the film should not have made Scream 2022. Instead, they should have made Scary Movie 2022. They should have thrown in a couple more films to parody, maybe add a few Wayans. Actually, it'd be funny to even add some of the Wayans kids in there, and you can make the joke about how it's a requel, how these characters are related to the original characters. I think that would have been a funnier film. And hey, somebody in Hollywood, make that movie. Make Scary Movie a requel of that series and bring back the Wayans. You're going to make millions upon millions of dollars, trust me. But I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this installment of the JanuScary special. Remember to check out the rest of the YouTube page and the website, flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, come here. Hey. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Yes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the Facebook page. Any and everything that Flip Frog is a part of, make sure that you subscribe. I'll have more reviews coming up for you later this month. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.